Good morning, guys. Welcome to day 143 until I'm a YouTube millionaire. And today we're going to talk about The Alchemist, a book that I just finished reading a little bit ago, actually a couple days ago. And really, overall, excellent book. I can say it's another strong recommend. The writer, Paulo Coelho, has a definite deep knowledge of Christianity, in that the king, which is one of the first characters that the protagonist in the story runs into, a protagonist is just called the boy. Basically, he's a boy that's being set out to go upon a journey to find his personal legend, is what the term is called. But this king is actually the king of Salem, and Salem, the king of Salem from the Bible, is Melchizedek. And Melchizedek, the story behind him matches up pretty dang well. So Paulo Coelho needed to have a pretty good, deeper knowledge of Christianity in order to put that into the story. And another part of the story that I think lined up with that was towards the end, when the alchemist talks about a centurion that went to Jesus and asked Jesus to cure his servant because his servant was ill. This is actually written in the Bible. And the alchemist gave a deeper background story of that centurion and his parents and his family and stuff. And I thought that was really cool. It was part of an absolute synchronicity that I got from this book, The Alchemist, because that's essentially the big thing I am trying to do with my novel series. Because my novel series, in general, is truly, even though it doesn't seem like it, even though it seems pretty crazy and very different, very far left field compared to it, it's really Christian fan fiction. Because I'm actually going into the deeper background of what I think could be the past of these big characters in the Bible, including Jesus, in that he is beyond time, he is God, and I show where it's just a story. It's just a story, okay? Think he came from. So I thought that was a really powerful synchronicity. And let's see, on page 50, I'm actually just going to go ahead and go through this. We'll start with page 24. It says, the first time the universe conspires to help you achieve your goals, and that's like one of the main threads in this whole story. I found that really interesting because the universe does. However, the universe being God, it's a conflict between God and the devil. The devil thinks he's God, so he's trying to defeat the universe to create absolute entropy. And yes, the universe is going to conspire to do everything it can to help you to achieve your goals, but the enemy is going to get in your way. And that happens many a time to the main character. He gets his money stolen from him, all of his wealth stolen from him several times, until finally, at the end of the book, he finds his treasure, and it was where he lived in the first place all along. But he needed to go on the journey in order to discover where it was. So it was still very well worth it. The universe does conspire. It indeed does. And then let's go ahead and look at page 25. So I wrote in here in my notes book, capable of going to the moon. It's talking about the personal legend. So the story says that anything you can imagine, anything that you want to be able to do, you can. And while in general I agree with that, it's at the same time the interaction between choice and opportunity. And in my current existence, it's possible to go to the moon and to Mars and to space, and that's part of my personal legend. However, the enemy has gotten some pretty powerful blows against me and has stopped me from accomplishing that goal. that personal legend. Let's see, page 50. I wrote, I'll figure it out. Because that's what a leader does. You get knocked on your ass over and over and over. Everything's taken from you. And you just get up and say, I'll figure it out. You just have to get up one more time than your enemy, and you will defeat them. This is the first time in the story that the boy lost all of his wealth from thievery. So, in not so few of words, he continued. And that's basically falling to your very lowest point in life. He had all of his path basically decimated before him. That's the equivalent of getting up, dusting yourself off, and saying, after you've gone bankrupt, I'll figure it out, which is what a man does. I see that a lot on Instagram. Instagram's a very powerful tool if you curate it right. Let's see, page 60, the man in the arena. This is a very important one. Well, I wrote the man in the arena, and that basically means you're going to have critics all the time. But you're the one that's actually trying to pave the path. And if other people are just standing by on the sidelines and just criticizing you for it, what do they matter? Keep going. One of the big things I got from this story was, would you be memorable to someone who's never heard or seen you before? There's a literal biblical king that the boy meets. And while he had no knowledge of this person's background, Melchizedek, even though the boy is Christian and it professes faith in Jesus, he wasn't well versed enough in Christianity to fully understand who he was talking to. Nevertheless, having minimal to no knowledge of this person's background, he is still somebody who has a huge impact on the boy's life. That's essentially what I want to do with this YouTube channel, with my videos. I know that all of you will probably never meet me in real life, and this may very well be the very first and perhaps the very last time you ever see me. For most of you, that's going to be the case. But will my presence have a lasting impact on you in this one pass you get with me? Melchizedek's did. The boy had never met him before, but his mind was blown by what he taught him and what he showed him. I want to be able to do the same thing for you guys. So I got that out of this book. It was pretty important. It made me think of another aspect of the novel series I want to write. A friend of mine told me of a short story that he had written. It's Major Logan. He's now a major in the military, the Air Force, where there was a guy that was going to jump off of a bridge, and God himself came to talk to him to convince him not to do it. And he didn't know that he was talking to God. But the person who was God had such an impact on the person that he didn't jump off the bridge. This harkens back to you being much more important than you think you are. All of you. And then let's see. There's another thing in the book something I don't like. He meets this woman by the name of Fatima at the oasis in the middle of the desert. And the way he explains it is something like love at first sight. That doesn't exist. You don't fall in love with somebody the first time you see them. It's not the way it works. I'm just going to leave it at that. It doesn't exist. It's infatuation. And then page 163. Absolute synchronicity, I wrote. This was about the centurion, that story that I just talked about a little bit ago. It was absolutely synchronous with what I'm doing with my novel series. that's what I have written for this. Again, it's a strong recommendation. It's not a very long book. It's only about 170 pages. It's pretty easy to read, too. Not only is it pretty short, but it's not written in complicated language. It's almost poem-like. It's a novel, but in its repetitive way of expressing itself, it's almost like an epic poem, like the Iliad. So, yeah, there you go, guys. Strong recommend. I was a little bit slow this morning, but anyways, love you all. Peace.